Primordial Radio.
Hey, it's Primordial Radio. Adam here, and it is the Radio Residency. And for the month of July, I am delighted to be joined by that is Wolfgang Van Halen. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. Right, over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be playing loads of tracks that you've picked and some of your own. We're going to kick off straight out with one of your own tracks. I'll ask you about it afterwards, but this is from your forthcoming album, Mammoth II. This is Celebration at the End of the World. So that was Celebration at the End of the World by Wolfgang Van Halen, Mammoth WVH. Tell me a little bit about that track, 'cause it's coming off a new album. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, that one, it being the very first one we've released from the new album, it felt like the perfect thing to kind of start off the new cycle, and with something that wasn't really on the first album, super upbeat, up tempo, sort of barn burner of a song. So we were very excited to get that out there, and it's been really fun to play live.
Really fast-paced, really energetic. And now I've got to ask you a question, because I know your first album, you played everything. Were you working with a band on this one, or was it much the same, you playing every instrument?
No, it's in the studio with Mammoth. It's all me.
Amazing. And also, not just all you, it is your producer as well, Elvis Basquet, who has worked with tons of bands. So I've dabbled in music production in my life, but I love the sound that guy gets. Absolutely huge.
Oh, he's the best. He's a joy to work with. Elvis is the best.
And I mean, that's actually quite a question as well. You know, the fact that you've played everything and asking, was it you? Was it a band? Because it sounds so melded together and there's such an energy and a vibe. Like, how do you create that when it's just you?
Really, it's just a matter of sort of putting the pieces together. You know, we have a demo that I'm tracking to, and I track the drums and then the bass and then the guitar. And by the end of it, the whole puzzle piece is all aligned, and you get something worth listening to.
It sounds amazing, and you know the last album sounded amazing as well. It's just big, it's huge, it hits you hard, but it's just heavy. So really excited. You said you're out playing it live. You know, it's often, I don't know, it's difficult, isn't it, when you're putting new tracks into a set? Like, did that just slot in and the fans loved it straight away?
Yeah, that one really worked immediately. Because now you reach the point where it's like, oh man, what songs do we take out that we have such a good time playing? So it's a tough choice, but you know, you got to figure it out.
It's all about progression as well, isn't it? And playing the new tracks. And talking about gigs, you're currently in the middle of, let's say, a fairly substantial tour, playing gigs with Metallica, Def Leppard and Motley Crue, and Alter Bridge as well. Alter Bridge is the next track up. How's the tour going so far?
And they are the best, wonderful friends, and I'm surprised they're not sick of us yet. We've been touring with them every now and then, off and on, since last year. So the fact they still want us around is quite humbling.
It's pretty good. Right, we're going to play Isolation from Alter Bridge. AB3, isn't it, Isolation?
Yeah.
Why did you pick this track?
I just love it. It's one of my favorite songs by them, and I love that you get to hear Miles play guitar during the solo, so you get that duality of showing just how truly amazing both Mark and Miles are, not only as singers but as guitar players.
It's crazy, isn't it? Miles kind of gets, you know, he gets lumbered in as, he's just one of the greatest singers in rock at the minute. You know, no one talks about his guitar playing. He's stunning.
He is one of the best guitar players I know.
Excellent. Let's have a listen now. This is Isolation from Alter Bridge. So that was Fair to Midland, Musical Chairs. Now, I've never heard that band before. You're going to have to tell me a little bit about them.
Oh, they are unfortunately no longer together, but they did 2 albums, and they are just such a incredible band. A very unique singer. You know, it's funny. I actually I'm kicking myself now because I went to one of their shows to see a band opening for them called Carnival, and I didn't know who they were. I went to see my favorite band, Carnival, and then I left, and I only rediscovered them like a couple of years ago. And just now realizing I was at their show, and that was like the biggest mistake I could have possibly made, because they are no longer a band, and they were phenomenal.
It's funny, isn't it, when we look at like the way that we discover music changes. And I talk a lot about Spotify and how it's, you know, so for example, I discovered a band a couple of months ago called Ben Harper and the Relentless Seven. So I love Ben Harper, great guitar player, love his voice and all of that. And I found this band, and Spotify was suggesting it to me, you know, music that you might like. And I was sort of like loving the album, listening to it, so excited by this new artist. And then I found out they broke up about 16 years ago.
It's the worst.
It is the worst, isn't it? But how do you find that as like a musical discovery tool? Are you usually using Spotify and finding out all the bands that it suggests to you?
It's certainly very easy to discover amazing music, but then you have moments like that where it's like, damn.
A little bit gutting. But hey, it's still, it's not going to change my experience, and I'm running along listening to it, so I'm all happy. All right, next track you picked is Jimmy Eat World and Bleed American. Tell us a little bit about this.
Jimmy Eat World is one of my biggest inspirations, one of my favorite bands, top 10, absolutely. I think their blend of melody, and then, I don't think people realize how heavy they can be, and I think this is a great example of how much ass they can kick, and this album front to back is a wonderful album, and it had a lot of influence on me growing up, so I figured I'd play this.
They're a band I've never really listened to beyond when they've come on the radio and the single, so I'm gonna have to check them out a little bit more. You've sold them to me.
You won't be disappointed.
Good. I'm going to give them a go. But for now, here's just one track. This is the Primordial Radio Residency. Picking the tracks is Wolfgang Van Halen. This is Jimmy Eat World with Bleed American. Meshuggah, Dancers to a Discordant System, Primordial Radio Residency. That track was picked by Wolf. Now, why that one?
It is the last song on probably one of their most famous albums, because it has if you're familiar with Meshuggah, you probably know the song Bleed. And that song is on that album. And Meshuggah is just one of my favorite bands. They are unbelievably heavy. There's nothing heavier than them. But you get lulled into their rhythm. As a drummer first, I just am in love with rhythmic music, and there's nothing more rhythmic than Meshuggah. I could fall asleep listening to Meshuggah. It relaxes me so much. So I don't know. After hearing that, you probably couldn't fall asleep to that. But man, I could, because I love it.
I'd say it would more kind of pump me up a little bit. First thing I ever...
Too. It's great.
Well, if you can fall asleep and if you can pump up to it, that's perfect. That's
absolutely
perfect blend. I love Meshuggah, the music video they did, and the name of the track escapes me. And it was kind of the first time I'd seen like GoPros used on stage, and they had like the one on the headstock and the one on the end of the microphone as well.
Yeah, I love that so much.
How you're a guy who, your band, you've got good visuals, like really great visuals, great videos. I love your album, especially the first album with the giant crab on it,
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed that. Like, how do you go about when you're doing a music video? Like, are you thinking of the actual visuals and the camera angles and all of that? Or are you thinking of creating a story?
Not too much. Usually just kind of the overarching like story about what's going to be presented. And usually, more often than not, it ends up being some kind of sarcastic or funny thing. It's important not to take yourself too seriously.
That is very, very, very important. Right, next band up is Intervals. We've only got a couple of tracks left on this show. It's flown by. Again, another band that, we've got a couple of Intervals tracks, I think, in the next couple of weeks. But tell me about them. This one's Epiphany.
Epiphany. This is funny. I have a song called Epiphany on my first Mammoth album. And I had gotten into... intervals over the past couple of years, and I had no idea that they had a song called Epiphany, so I immediately jumped to it and listened to it, and I was like, damn. I love what I love most about Aaron Marshall and his guitar playing is how while he can be incredibly technical and shred like a monster, his melodic sensibility and phrasing is what attracts me most to his playing and what inspires me most. And I really love it's almost like he plays vocal melodies throughout the song, and this quote unquote chorus of this song is just such a money melody that I listen to this song on repeat many times.
That's really interesting. I mean, I'm not a great guitar player. I like playing guitar, but I'm not great. But I'm definitely more of a riffer, and the idea of coming up with melodies is probably why I've never done anything other than just sit in my room and play guitar, to be honest, because I can't write anything melodic. But you yourself, you kind of playing every instrument and writing all the songs. Like, do you find you're playing melodies first on the guitar? Are you coming up with a riff? Is it a drum line? What are you writing first before?
More often than not, usually it's like riffs on guitar that sort of inspire and kind of unfold into a song. Kind of hinting at certain melodies or maybe even lyrical content, depending on what the song feels like. So, but usually it's a riff.
Crazy, isn't it, how there's only 6 strings on a guitar, you got essentially 12 notes on a string,
right?
And like riffs.
Possibilities are endless.
It genuinely is. So now it's time to listen to that intervals track. This is Epiphany on the Radio Residency. Primordial Radio Residency with Wolf from Mammoth WVH. That was AC/DC and Night Prowler. So, we've got a bit classic for the end of the show. Tell us a little bit why you picked that one.
Yeah, it's perfect to end the show because it ends Highway to Hell. Or it's one of the last songs, if not the last song, yeah. That's a very special song, personally. Not only is AC/DC one of my favorite bands of all time, but my band and I, we make sure we listen to Night Prowler right before we go on stage every show. So that song just has a lot of wonderful memories tied to it over the past couple years, touring for the first time, and it's really the song that helps gets us. It helps put us in the mood, ready for the stage.
That's amazing. And obviously you've played in so many other bands other than your own. Did you all have different tracks in different bands that you'd all get sort of pumped up to?
Not really. This was the first sort of tradition in that sort of way that's come up in any bands I've been in.
That's interesting.
And I love it.
I like that. Right, we've got one more track now left, so I'm going to say goodbye. And firstly, thank you very, very much for the first week here on July's Radio Residency.
It was a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming. And we're going to end with a track of your own. Tell us a little bit about this one. This is Stone.
Stone is one of the last songs on the first album. It has this very sort of epic, almost like Nine Inch Nails crossed with like Black Sabbath sort of vibe, especially in the bridge. So it's a really fun song to play live, and I thought it'd be a really great song to close this little thing we're doing.
Excellent. Well, let's have a listen. Thank you very, very much, Wolf. We'll see you next week. This is Stone.
Thank you.
Primordial Radio, it's Adam here, and it is the Radio Residency, but you're not here for me. You're here for our guest, and for the month of July, our guest is Wolf Van Halen. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Really great to have you back. Show 1 was a blast. Anyone who didn't get a chance to listen to show 1, it is available on demand, but don't turn off the radio just yet because it's time for show 2. And we're going to kick off with, well, the first track I heard of your first album, Don't Back Down.
Yeah, this is the lead single from the first album.
It was. I was on a different radio station at the time, and I remember playing it very, very, very regularly because it was very, very good. So tell us a little bit about this. And also, I want to know, because it was the first single of your first album, how did you pick this one? Because this was such a way to announce yourself as a solo artist in a band onto the stage.
Yeah, it was tough. It took a lot of deliberating and going through the album and deciding, and it just seemed like the best choice for just the sort of first announcement of what the band and everything was. And to this day, it's still one of our favorite songs to play live. I think we close shows mostly with it, and every time people are singing it back to us, and it's just this crazy feeling. It's just a lot of great memories attached to this song.
It's also a great message, isn't it? Don't back down.
Exactly.
Because it was a difficult time in the world, wasn't it? It wasn't an easy time. I think it was pandemic sort of era, wasn't it?
Yeah. We're just coming out of it, and so it's special message.
Let's have a listen now. Mammoth WVH. This is Don't Back Down. That was Alice in Chains with No Excuses. One of my sort of favourite bands. I love the grunge era. I'm really sad that I was born in 92 and didn't really get to experience it properly.
Same.
Yeah. Because you were what? You were a 1990?
91.
91, okay. So we're about a year apart. Isn't it incredible how almost vintage that era is now in musical terms, yet for me I still find a lot of freshness in it, and it's a very unique production style.
Unique. It's just an endless, if you've never dove into that era, it's so plentiful with all the amazing unique takes on the sound.
Yeah, I love it. And I also quite like the fact that you could get, I don't want to say crappy, but crappy production then had a great tone and a great sound to it, very different.
A lot of character.
Exactly. And I'm a huge Kyuss fan, and when you go and listen to, say, Nirvana, to Kyuss, to Alice in Chains, to Soundgarden, to, I don't know, Stone Temple Pilots, they all had such a different sound and a different vibe.
Exactly. Very unique. A lot of individuality between the movements, so it's very exciting to listen to.
Wish I could have been there. And we're going to go to a band with a very, very different style.
This is quite the jump.
I don't think Do you think there would ever have been a world where Alice in Chains would have played on the same bill as Animals as Leaders?
If it was an incredibly eclectic festival, maybe.
Very brave promoter.
Yeah.
So this is The Woven Web. Tell us a little bit about this track and why you picked it.
The breakdown in this song, what the drums are doing, it's one of the coolest kick drum patterns. As a drummer first, it's mesmerizing. And I couldn't believe it when I first heard it. So if any listener is about to hear this song for the first time, I envy you.
Let's have a listen now. This is The Woven Web from Animals as Leaders. That was covered with Shibaya. Shibia? I mean, I've never heard that song. New band to me. So tell me a little bit about them.
Covet is this amazing band pioneered by this wonderful guitar player named Yvette Young, and she has a very unique way of playing the guitar, and just the way that she's able to pull these melodies out, and it's such a incredible way, the way she taps. I could watch her play endlessly. She's a very fun guitar player to watch. She's very interesting the ways that she plays the guitar, so in such a unique way. And I think this song really demonstrates how unique and awesome that she is. So it's a wonderful song, wonderful band. If you're not familiar, you should really check them out.
Definitely going to. When you're listening to music, what is something... The thing is, you write great songs, like generally great songs. You know, you've been Grammy nominated. You know what it takes to write a great song. But you seem to, a lot of the tracks you've picked out have been for sort of moments of virtuosity within the bands. What do you listen out for most? If you were writing it down, you had to answer the question, what would you look out for most in a song?
And anything, usually, melody more than anything is what hits my ear and excites me. Certainly moments of virtuosity and insane playing like Animals as Leaders is just as interesting, but melody more than anything is really the king for me.
Okay, that's interesting. So far, you mentioned that you write your songs riff first. The melody is what you listen out for most, and also you seem to get almost most excited by awesome drum patterns. So I'm kind of understanding, your process a little bit.
Yeah, picking me apart.
Yeah, quite far off, but I like that. I really, really like that. And I think if we're going to go for awesome songs, amazing moments of drumming, and a bit of virtuosity, the next band, pretty good for that, Tool and The Grudge.
Absolutely.
How did you pick this track?
Oh man, this is just one of my favorites. The way the song leads up to the ending and culminates into this incredible explosion of drums by one of my favorite drummers of all time, Danny Carey. Also, one of my favorite bass players, Justin Chancellor. Just the whole Tool rules. That's really it. Tool rules. So listen to this.
We're all going to now. This is Tool and The Grudge. It's the Primordial Radio Residency. I am joined by Wolfgang Van Halen, and we just played probably one of my favourite songs of all time, and certainly one that I've almost rediscovered a little bit of love for, and I'm talking about that song we just heard there, Stacked Actors by the Foo Fighters. What a track. The thing that sticks out for this one, for me, actually, a lot of it's the bass line. A brilliant bass line in it.
I love how uniquely they're tuned. The guitar player, all the guitars are tuned to a drop A tuning. So it's a really, really cool low, and I love the use of harmonics in the main riff. Most likely my favorite Foo Fighters song of all time.
I absolutely love it. I've friends with a couple of guitarists who use the term, there's no such thing as a heavy tuning, just a heavy riff. But I do actually disagree. And there's another Dave Grohl project, Them Crooked Vultures, which their opening track is I believe, tuned to drop A as well.
Yeah. It's just so heavy.
It really, really is. And for those who are maybe, we're on the radio, you might not be able to see, you're wearing a Taylor Hawkins hat from the tribute gig right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a horrible, such sad news last year when that happened.
It broke me, man. Absolutely.
I can't believe it's been a year. I mean, look, I'm speaking from a fan's perspective. I get the understanding that you knew Taylor. So it's a very, very different situation, and you were privileged enough to play at the gig, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely insane opportunity to have been asked to take part in that.
And I was watching the video of it before we came on for this. Was the drummer backing you when you were playing Panama? I think it might have been in the US one. Was that Josh Freese?
Josh Freese himself, absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah, that was really, really interesting. I actually quite enjoyed that lineup because you had Dave Grohl on bass, Josh on drums, Justin Hawkins on vocals and you on guitar. It was a good combination, you know. You ever thought about getting together for a little recording?
Quite the dream band. That would be an incredible thing to do again. That was wonderful.
Yeah, obviously sad occasion, but beautiful occasion as well. Like, it's amazing to watch a gig, like just watching it from home because they streamed it all on YouTube, you know, a tear in the eye, but like exciting music
endless
as well.
Amounts of love for Taylor. It was an incredible moment.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to move on actually to a band who I think Josh has also played in this band. I will admit I didn't know too much about Josh Freese until I Googled him. Then I realised, he's done a lot. One of those bands is Nine Inch.
Not just a lot, everything.
Yeah, like
he's the one of the best drummers in the world that you know, but even if you don't know him,
I think I saw he's like didn't he play for Miley Cyrus? Like he's even gone.
He's played for everything. He is literally, seriously, just Google him and your mind will be blown.
It was a little bit. He played in Nine Inch Nails. I'm not sure if it was this track. There's many Nine Inch Nails tracks that could be picked. You went for The Becoming. So tell me a little bit about this song.
This song I think is so unique, even amongst such a crazy unique grouping of songs that Nine Inch Nails has. This is on the Downward Spiral, and I really love this song with how uncomfortable of a vibe that it creates while simultaneously being relaxing in a later part of the song. I really like the duality that it brings, and you can really sort of hear all of that happening on this track. And plus near the end it does this crazy almost double kick sort of pattern in this crazy time signature, and I've just always been really drawn to this song. I would love to cover it someday. I think it's a very
you got to do it. There's I quite like in the way that music can be released nowadays. I guess it can be different when you're on a big record label, which I know you guys are, but you know, the ability to just release some covers every now and then, I find that quite interesting. You should go for it.
That'd be a good time.
I love what you said about makes you kind of uncomfortable, because I do get that with Nine Inch Nails. There's so much like noise going on.
This song, there's like people screaming in pain while it's happening, so certainly uncomfortable.
Definitely. Right, if everyone's ready to get a little bit uncomfortable here on Primordial Radio, this is Nine Inch Nails with The Becoming. Periphery with Wildfire here on the Radio Residency. Wolf, why that track?
Not only is it just heavy as balls, I love the duality of Spencer's vocals, where he can be harsh and then simultaneously belt out the most awesome melodies. And this chorus is probably my favorite chorus they've ever done. The chord changes throughout are so unexpected, but powerful. And they're just a killer band, killer dudes. I've known them for a while. They're very, very awesome. And I just love this song.
Excellent. And we're ending with a track which, you know, going from Periphery to your own song Epiphany, which wasn't by design. Tell us a little bit about this.
This song, it's funny. It came about in the title. Literally, I was cleaning my kitchen, and it sort of came to me. And usually I record an idea on my phone, but this time around I just went upstairs and made a whole demo for it right away, and I just decided to call it Epiphany because it just came to me, and that sort of stuck.
Amazing. I know you've gone and recorded like in massive studios, but what's your home setup like? Just satisfy the nerd inside me.
Really, just to make quick demos, I just use my laptop and Logic just to really get the idea down. It doesn't ever sound very good, but it gets the idea across, you know.
That's amazing. I love that sort of thing. I spoke to Ville Valo recently, and he was talking about in the beginning of the pandemic, he built a whole home studio and he could just go in there and everything's ready. Because that was always the bit, if ever and again, I'm talking like 15 years ago when I was a teenager, thinking, I could be in a band. And I'd try and write a song and it would be the setting up of everything. I'd completely lose it. So,
yeah, it's you gotta be dedicated.
Yeah, you do. Definitely. Right. Wolf, thanks so much for joining us on the second week of the residency. We'll see you again next week. And until then...
Such a blast. Thank you.
No, thank you. Until then, this is Epiphany. It's Adam here. It is the Primordial Radio Residency. It's the third week in July, and that can only mean the third week with Wolfgang Van Halen. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm having such a great time doing this. I love it.
Really glad. You picked some great tracks so far. Like, we've had an eclectic mix. Tool, Foo Fighters, Nine Inch Nails. They're just a few from the last show. We did a nice jump of Alice in Chains to Animals as Leaders. But I really like talking about, your own music. I think that's really exciting. You've got a brand new album out next month, Mammoth II, and we're going to play Like a Pastime from it. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, this one is fun. It came about because I was trying to teach my fiance what a polyrhythm was, and if you can tell, it's sort of this thing where the rhythm is almost accentuated by the guitar at the beginning, and then the kick drum comes in and sort of accentuates this rhythm on top of it. So that was kind of my my simplistic teaching of what a polyrhythm was.
Did it work?
Yeah, she actually ended up getting it. It was a lot easier than trying to point at a Meshuggah song and try and deconstruct it for her.
I can imagine, and that's a really nice story. Is your fiance musical herself?
She appreciates music, but she does, and she actually does play guitar a little bit. She's great on guitar, so
nice.
So yeah.
Jam at the wedding. That's what you got to get planned. Jam at the wedding. Right, let's have a listen now. This is from your forthcoming album. This is Like a Pastime. That was Carnival and Themata. And you mentioned in show one you're a huge Carnival fan. I also, no, I'm not a huge Carnival fan. I'm a massive Carnival appreciator. They put me onto a band called Mammoth, who toured with them in Australia back in the late 2000s, who are one of my favourite bands of all time. And I was lucky enough to record an acoustic session with Carnival. And off the back of that, they invited me to their BBC Live Maida Vale session. I got to go and watch them and how those guys do actually what they do. How did you fall in love with them? And tell me a little bit about your Carnival journey.
Basically, I discovered them with the album Sound Awake. And the second I heard the very beginning of the first song and when the drums come in, and more than anything, the bass tom of John Stockman is just otherworldly. As a fan of Tool, they're kind of cut from that same cloth, but it's their own take on it. And it's just such a unique, beautiful, but heavy. They're just Sound Awake, especially their second album, is one of my favorite albums of all time. I just can't say enough at how amazing of a band this is.
The songs kind of meander, sort of, as you say, like between sort of beautiful and heavy.
Yeah.
John, the bass player, he was a really, really nice guy, actually. I spoke to him loads.
Oh, he's a sweetheart. I love that dude.
He turned up to an acoustic session with a 6-string acoustic bass. I think it was a Warwick, which, to be fair, looked pretty difficult to play, but he absolutely killed it.
Oh, he knows his way around it for sure.
Are they still together? Because I haven't heard anything from them for quite a while.
Yeah. No, I think they were actually just on tour right now.
Okay, I know Kenny was in a different band recently.
Yeah, he's got Birds of Tokyo too.
That's the one. Yeah. No, I'd look forward to, hopefully, if they ever rock up in my neck of the woods, which is sort of northern Poland, I am right there to watch them. But now we're going to move on. We've got some Periphery, Atropos. Tell me a little bit about this song.
This, talking about moving from heaviness to melody, I think this is a great example. I think the groove is Meshuggah-like in its trudging, but at the same time, you've got Spencer's melodic vocals on top of it. And I think it's such a cool marriage of these two completely different sides of the same coin. So it's a really fun song to listen to. And I can't say enough at how much of an amazing drummer Matt Halpern is. I could watch him drum forever. He is incredible.
We're going to now play and have a listen to this. This is Periphery with Atropos. So that's Fair to Midland, Dance of the Manatee. Second time we play those guys on your Radio Residency this month. Tell me a little bit about that track.
That is the first song off of their major label debut. And I just think it's a really great example of how unique of a vocalist Darrow is. And I just love it. I think he's it's hard to find just like original things anymore. It feels like everything's been done before, but they were a truly unique band, and it really shines in this song with their sound. And I can't appreciate it enough.
That's a really interesting thing you said. It's hard to find things that are unique. I often find now that genres, people are deliberately trying to blend genres a little bit too much, so you end up with something like a poppy a K-pop technical death metal.
Yeah, it almost sounds a little formulaic or robotic at this point.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Because it must, obviously bands are trying to stand out, I think personally, for what you've ended up doing to stand out is to write amazing songs, which I think always does shine through.
Yeah, I think it depends on how it's done. Sometimes it can feel very much like a novelty, but then you have certain bands, like I don't know if you're familiar with this amazing Japanese band called Maximum the Hormone. They have this blend of all of that sort of thing, like you're saying, like where it's like, oh, this K-pop sound to a death metal. So, and for some reason they pull it off. It's like they can sound like Green Day and System of a Down at the same time, and it's so entertaining and so true to them. It's a fun thing to listen to.
It's actually quite interesting because I think I haven't heard of that band firstly, so I can't place too much comment because I haven't listened to them. I was never into baby metal, which was obviously very much a death metal sort of thing with more of a J-pop or I think baby metal or a J-pop fronting. I've recently been put onto a band who I think actually might now be one of your label mates called Hanabi. And I think for me, I love riffs. So they're very, very similar. It's, I think, a 4-piece girl band. And they just have the dirtiest riffs in the world. I can't understand how the lyrics marry up, but they do.
I'll also check it out. That sounds so fun.
Oh, man, you got to. I really, really do recommend it. But, I mean, then again, it's like, I think when you get a lot of these bands who do blend different genres, I can cope with like one or two. There's one or two who it just hits you. And I guess maybe that's what the genres are trying to do because, you're less likely to, go down the path of like the 90s. You get a record deal and everyone hears you on the radio. So you're likely just to hit like a micro niche of fans, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think as long as you're true to yourself and you make what entertains you most, you can't go wrong.
Is that how you do? Do you like, obviously you have a great time on stage.
Yeah.
Do you, is there any time you've written a song that you absolutely love and you think, oh, maybe it's not the right vibe, or do you play what you love?
I think I just kind of follow what interests me most. I never really go into a recording process with any plan other than wanting to make music that excites me.
And how much does your producer sort of tow you along the line?
He's like the other half of the band in the studio, because it's all me playing, but he's a wonderful musician in his own right. And he helps steer that ship and make sure that it doesn't hit any icebergs.
Brilliant. Well, let's move on now to a band that we played already, but we can never have too much Tool. Why did you pick Stinkfist, which is a great song name?
Absolutely great name. I've seen them live so many times at this point, but this song is like a cornerstone of their live performances. And it opens up Anima, which is also one of my favorite records of all time. And man, I wanted to play it. I just love it.
There's no better reason than that. Let's have a listen now. This is Tool with Stinkfist. Jimmy Eat World with 23 here on the Radio Residency with Wolf Van Halen. So tell me a little bit about that track. I think we mentioned in show 1, I'm not don't hugely know a lot about Jimmy Eat World, so you'll have to guide me here.
Yeah, this song, what I love from Jimmy Eat World that they usually do is at the end of every single one of their albums, they usually close with a longer and epic sort of song. And this song is certainly one of those. It's a very emotional sort of beautiful landscape of layered textured guitars. And what I love most from them is also their harmonies. So there's a lot of this sound and their sound overall that inspires me and that I find in my own songwriting as I start to apply ideas. I'm like, wow, that's very Jimmy Eat World. That's very sort of that sort of vibe. So I think this song's a really great example of that.
You're really selling them to me. I'm definitely going to check them out more and more because, and also that sounds like a little bit like another band who you've been on tour with recently. Just a small matter, a band called Metallica. They often, they've often had a lot of sort of epic ending songs. I'm thinking Load, Reload era. They made you, didn't they? They gave you like a cake to say like thank you for coming on the road. Did I see that right?
Yeah, in Amsterdam at the first show, there was a 72 Seasons vinyl cake that they had in our dressing room that they delivered, which was so very kind. They've been so wonderful to us. It's a huge honor to be a part of such a massive event, like a world tour for Metallica. It's crazy.
What's the operation like? It must be like, I imagine it's quite hectic 'cause there's a lot going on and they're touring.
It's
a lot.
hectic, but they have such a wonderful group of people doing everything that it's just it's a joy to be around. And man, it's crazy. I don't know if you've seen their stage, but it is very unique and a very crazy thing to be on when you're performing.
I haven't seen the stage from this tour. I remember I saw them in 2008, Death Magnetic. So they did a thing there. It was my first ever gig. It was a Metallica gig.
Wow.
It was amazing. And they had the stage like in the middle with...
Yeah, it's that same thing. It's in the round. It's like this big donut sitting in the middle of a stadium, and it's just absolutely crazy to look around in all directions, and there's crowd.
And how are you playing with that? Because obviously they have mic points and they're running around. I personally think for a fan experience, like, it just improves everyone's view.
Yeah, everybody gets a good view. It's crazy for us because, me, it's like I have a pedal board and a microphone, so I can't stray too far. But luckily, I have other band members that can kind of make their way around it.
Yeah, that's because Kirk always has his like wah-wah pedal sort of knocking around, doesn't he? Which like fantastic. I love Metallica. As I say, first gig, one of my favorite bands.
Great.
We're going to move on now though to another track from Alice in Chains, Rooster. This is again a very Alice in Chains sounding track. Huge song for them. Why did you go for this?
I picked this because it might be my favorite Alice in Chains song. I think it has everything that I love about Alice in Chains. It has their blend of just kind of dissonant harmonies with just like, I mean, you don't get any more grunge than this. Like, it's just, it's heavy. It's that sort of dark emotional vibe, and it's just the best.
I like that. You don't get any more grunge than this. This is Alice in Chains. That was covered with Firebird here on the Primordial Radio Residency. Tell me a bit about that track. Obviously, last cover track you played was last week with Shibaya, and you mentioned sort of guitar virtuosity.
Yeah, I just I can't say enough how much I appreciate Yvette Young and her melodic sensibility, and I think this song is a really great showcase. It's almost a pop song of melody display in this song. I think the hook is just so catchy. When I first heard it, it just got stuck in my head. So hopefully it's stuck in yours right now.
I hope so. And talking about melody and sort of a more popular song, this next song we played did quite well. Grammy nominated for Best Rock Song, Mammoth WVH with Distance. So when you wrote the first album, obviously you've got the masters back, you're listening to it. Did you pick that this would be one of the ones that would, go that far, get nominated?
I had no idea. I just write music that I enjoy and follow. So I never expect anyone else to appreciate it as well. And to see how this song resonated with so many people is something I never could have expected. And it's a huge honor to have that kind of effect on people.
Huge guitar solo as well. Like huge guitar solo. Are you a solo writer or just chuck on play and improvise?
Usually I like to write. I feel like solos are like little mini stories.
Yeah.
So this one is certainly all emotion.
You could really feel it. Like, genuinely, really could feel it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for this week. Of course, anyone listening, if you've missed the first 2 weeks of the Radio Residency with Wolf, go back, listen on demand in the next few minutes. First, listen to this track, Distance, and Wolf will see you next week.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Adam here. It's Primordial Radio Residency, week 4 with Wolf Van Halen. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. This is I'm loving this. Let's keep doing it.
Well, you can come back next month if you want. I'm sure you've got tons more tracks you can pick.
Oh yeah.
But we're going to start with one of your own, as we always do here in the Residency. This is called You're to Blame. Can you tell us a little bit about this, please?
Yeah, this was our very first song that everybody heard was Distance. And I don't think that's a overall great example of what is offered entirely by our catalog. That sound is certainly part of it, but I think You're to Blame was more of a representation of the sort of core sound that Mammoth offers. And it was really fun for people to hear this new side, at least to them, when we released it. So a lot of good memories attached to this song, and it always is a really fun song to play live.
So listen now. This is You're to Blame. That was Foo Fighters' Enough Space here on the Residency. Wolf, tell us a little bit about that track, because I mean, I had to ask you which album it was from. It's completely kind of escaped my mind.
This song I love so much because one, it's really heavy and really showcases Dave's scream, which I love so much. But this one I love because in the documentary that they did when they recorded Wasting Light, he talks about how he came up with the song by jumping up and down to find the proper tempo for a crowd to jump up and down to. So this song to me is emblematic of the secret sauce tempo. It's the magic tempo, as I like to call it. So I think that song is it's when you find a song at this tempo live, there's nothing better, and the crowds eat it up. It's the best.
Love it. I love that album, Wasting Light, as well.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I don't think I've seen the full documentary. Like, where is that? Just something on YouTube? Because I've seen like little clips.
I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, or I think I actually purchased it on iTunes. It might actually be on Apple TV or something like that.
I wonder if it's like one of those hidden, when they used to hide it in a CD. So it's kind of I'm going to get my. So I'm currently in between houses, like waiting for a house to be built, and so for like the last 3 years, behind all this stuff behind me, all of my CDs are in there. So I'm going to have to wait a little bit longer. But the bits I've seen of that documentary, I love it. My favourite line was when they sort of said, we thought we'd go back to just doing what we did when we were younger and playing in a garage and, recording in a garage. And they show this, like, they could probably fit more cars than I've ever seen. Yeah. And they wheel in a 200 grand mixing desk and then Butch Vig. But it's still, it did everything it needs to do. It's such a great album, isn't it?
It's one of my favorites.
Absolutely love it. And next up, and again, a band who, quite linked to Nine Inch Nails. I know Dave Grohl played with, again, Dave Grohl, a bit like Josh Freese, has played with pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
You picked this track, The Wretched. Tell us a little bit about this.
This is just such a great, evil, angry song that I think no one but Trent Reznor could write. And I think it's just his signature sort of bite, lyrically and heavy wise. I think the album it comes from, The Fragile, is simultaneously super underappreciated, but also at the same time people view it as the best. People don't know if it's a great album or if it's a bad album, but to me it's one of the best. So
it's a journey of an album, isn't it? It's not one
absolutely.
That you can just kind of like switch on and off. It's not one you'd put on shuffle, I wouldn't think.
No. It is a proper journey, one from start to finish. That's important.
Let's have a listen to it now. This is Nine Inch Nails with The Wretched. All right, that was Animals as Leaders with Physical Education. I got a question, but before that, I'm going to ask why you picked this track.
This song, it might be one of their most popular songs, and I think, as a drummer first and a lover of rhythm, I don't think it gets any funkier or rhythmic than this song. I think it's a really great showcase for Tosin Abasi's like thumping thing he does with his like finger picking technique that is really entertaining to listen to and watch.
So I think like 20 years ago, you probably wouldn't get a band that sounds anything like Animals as Leaders, right?
No, they're like aliens.
Okay, so this leads on to my question nicely then, that you think that, because so I've done for the last sort of year, I've been really interested in AI. I think we all have been very interested in AI. I do a podcast with Bruce Dickinson, and we put him with with an AI specialist looking at the psychology of AI and music. And Bruce was sort of really speaking about, you could never get AI that could write songs properly and all of that. And that was over a year ago, so it's developed pretty quickly. I mean, firstly, I think if AI did write music, it might end up something similar to Animals as Leaders, a little bit different. What's your thoughts on that? Like, just in general, the use of AI in music, because we've had so many tools in the last few years that have helped with things. Even when you look at Logic, you use Logic and they've got the intelligent drummer that's been there for a good few years. Do you think there's any place for it?
I think, when aiding in creation, sort of like that intelligent drummer thing, like you're saying, can be helpful. But overall, when it comes to creative merit and creative processes, I really just don't think AI can compete. The only way it competes is by plagiarizing a combination of everything else that we've already done. So without us, it couldn't be. So when it comes to creating original sort of things, no chance.
That's such a brilliant answer, and I'm really happy that you said that, because it's similar to how I feel. I think that, again, I've been doing a different podcast series on this, but without a human input, like human intelligence, you can't really do anything with AI.
No.
So it's never going to take away jobs that I think that, like people say will. I mean, it'll change jobs and it will create jobs, but especially in music. Like, I'd be quite interested to see how AI, for example, could model guitar amps similar to like Kempers and things like that. That would be interesting.
You'd have to. We've yet to see, so it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's too much conversation over like saying it's going to stop people writing songs. It's never going to do that, is it? It's never going to stop you, coming up with a song in your kitchen and going and recording it upstairs. You're not going to think, oh, well, AI exists. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So another band, again, one of your favorites, Carnival, Goliath. Tell us about this track.
This song, more than anything, represents my love of John Stockman, his bass playing, but more importantly, his bass tone. The way this song starts, where it's just the guitar and drums, and then all of a sudden, if you have a good sound system on, and then the bass just slams into the song, it is one of my most favorite and satisfying beginnings to any song I've ever heard. I love it.
I love it too, actually. And it's what sort of what amps is he using? Is he an Ampeg 8x10?
I'm really not sure. I know he has this incredible pedal that he has so graciously made available to sort of harness his incredible tone.
Let's have a listen now. This is the phenomenal Carnival with Goliath. Primordial Radio Residency with Wolf Van Halen. Only got a couple of tracks left, a couple of times to speak to you before you head off. I want you to tell us everything about this AC/DC track, If You Want Blood.
This song is a song that I had been playing and like singing since I could play the guitar when I was like 12. AC/DC was always my favorite band growing up, and this song was probably my favorite song off of one of my favorite albums. So I just hold a lot of special memories with this song. I just think it's so metal, and it's just so perfect, a perfect example of why AC/DC is so great. And more than anything, that very beginning, that intro, is just such a great example of Malcolm and his rhythm. I can't say enough how much I love Malcolm Young and his rhythm guitar abilities.
And talking of guitar abilities, you played for quite a lot of bands. You've got a lot of musical influences in your life from the bands that you played with. I hear a lot of Mark Tremonti in your playing. Obviously, was it bass you played for Tremonti?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you toured for a good few years, didn't you, with Tremonti? About
a year or two. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the Dust. What was the other now? It was the two albums that came out quite close to each other.
Yeah, Cauterized and Dust. Yeah, I played on both of those.
And you've picked Alter Bridge, Silver Tongue, more recent song of theirs. Obviously, Alter Bridge, not Tremonti. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about like what it's like playing and with guitarists like Mark Tremonti? Because I'm just stunned whenever I see him play. He's just such a
he's just such a, first of all, such a wonderful guy, but just such an incredibly talented guitar player, and he's just very, very fun to watch. And man, this song just makes me think of touring with them recently, and they've been opening their shows with this song, and being able to see this song every night is just such a joy. So this song just brings a smile to my face.
Do you go side of stage and watch sort of most nights, or
Oh, dude, all the time. Being able free Alter Bridge show every night, absolutely.
I really love that. I love that you sound so enthusiastic about music and so enthusiastic about the bands you play with and your own stuff. It's quite infectious. It's nice to hear.
Music's the best, man. There's nothing better.
Very, very true. Right, this is Alter Bridge with Silver Tongue. Right, that was Intervals with 5-HTP. I'm thinking 5 hit points, something like that. Sounds like there's a gaming element to the name of that. Again, it's a band that I'm not too familiar with, so tell me a little bit about that track.
That is like the song I'm most jealous of. That guitar riff is like my favorite. It's probably the thing I've played the most on guitar in the past 3 years. That it's just one of my favorite songs of all time, and I couldn't not put it on this list.
We're going to end now with the track that we started on from your forthcoming album, Mammoth II. We're going to play out with Celebration at the End of the World. Wolf, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Primordial Radio and doing the residency. It's been absolutely fantastic.
This has been such a blast, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. Thank you very, very much. Good luck. Everyone can catch you out on the road, and your brand new album, Mammoth II, is out in the beginning of August. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Absolutely, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Primordial Radio.